Hey guys, we'll go ahead and start for everyone who's gone, who came here on time. I want to honor your time coming in. I don't want to take too long. I want to get you guys some good content, get you guys answer any questions, and really what we're doing here is just letting you guys know literally what I do for business, how we do it, and the mindset and different things, and how when I go to listings. Um, I do my best to set up for success. Most of my business in the last couple of years, I've been transitioning in more into a listing agent. I finally showed a buyer, a good friend of mine, a house not too long ago, a couple houses, and it just felt different because I haven't shown houses in a while. I've gone on a lot of listings and things like that, so it's just been pretty cool. Hey, Sean Cardoza. And so with that, I mean, I think all I can say is Sean. That's awesome. Wave, Sean. Say hi. So again, guys, so this is just letting you guys know what I do when I go on listings and how I set things up. If you guys have any questions, go ahead, put into the feed and ask away. But what I do personally, we're not talking about how to get listings. We're going to talk about is once you get a listing, you're gonna be going to a listing. What do you do when you get there? How do you close the sale and leave with a listing? So that's what really today is going to be about. So with me, before I go to the listing, I ask a handful of questions to the people. And if you go to Mike Fury online, he has a great pre-listing, before you go on the listing, questions to ask. The main things that I'm trying to ask, the biggest thing that I want to see is what their motivation is, time frame and things like that. If they're interviewing other agents, so you see if it's a competitive listing. And those are some of the handful of things I ask before I go to the listing. And I try to get a feel of what they would want to list for, right? Because there's only a handful of objections really when you go on a listing appointment. Is list price, commission, time frames, spouses. I always try to make sure any decision maker is going to be there. And then I ask if they say, hey, if I say, hey, is there a price that you guys are looking at listing? And they say, well, that's your job. You're the agent. You should tell me. I said, oh yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. Is there, looking in the market, what is your neighbor's house is selling for? And that'll kind of always open them up to, well, my neighbor's house sold for this, and yeah, it sold for 300. Mine's way better. I have nice curtains, so mine should sell for 350. So you'll start hearing what they say, and they'll let you know. Guys, we're in the day of age that a lot of sellers, they have a lot of the information that we have, right? I mean, we just need to be able to be one step ahead of them and be professional. They go on Zillow, they go on Realtor, and they have a lot of the information. Realtor has a lot of the information on there, what it sold for, or Zillow has his estimate. And for their knowledge, they might think that's the best way. When they see his estimate on Zillow, they're like, oh wow, that's what my house is worth. I let them know that, hey, it's 15 to 20% skewed on either way. Hey, Apple. And I let them know that. But they have a lot of information. Sellers have a ton of information. So we just need to make sure we're professional. And when we go there, we wow them with something. And I'll show you what I do and I teach my team to do is how we wow them personally. So we find out, we kind of do like a reverse engineering. It sounds fancy, it's really not. But we find out, we go online and we find out. I don't ask them what they owe because I can do the calculations and go to them with a net sheet already. And that'll help, in your pre-listing packet, you come with a net sheet already for what you think it's going to sell for or a range. Like I found out what they bought the house for, what year they bought it, and what month. And then we go and look at the interest rate in that year and that month. And then we just plug it into Zillow. And then we see how many months they made payments. If it was 5 years ago, they made 60 payments. So we go on Zillow and say, okay, cool, 60 payments. They roughly owe this. And I can tell you almost every seller I've been in between like $1,000, $2,000, give or take. And they're like, wow, that's really good. How'd you know how much I owe? And I said, well, that's my job. And, it's actually pretty easy. But I was like, anyways, and I give it to them. And so they're one impressed, because at the end of the day, what do sellers want? They just want the most money in their pocket, and they want the easiest, smoothest transaction, and they want to know that you have their back, right? So if you come prepared with a pre-listing packet, you give it to them before, and then you come with a net sheet already, because you know roughly what they owe. And even at 6% commission and everything, like, hey, you're going to make 100 grand. Oh, wow. Okay. They don't care how much you're getting paid. They just care about they're making 100 grand. So when they see that number, I rarely get commission objections. And then when we do, they said, oh, so what do you charge? Oh, we charge 6%, just a standard fee, on there. And they're like, and that fee's already built into the 100 grand you're making. Oh, okay, cool. Just most people, guys, listings, most people just ask, right? They just ask, and they just want to, they want to tell their friends, yeah, I asked my listing agent, so that's what they want to, they want to just feel that they have that power. So come prepared. Sellers have a lot of information. You need to come more prepared than they do, than the information that they have. So going into the listings, when I get to the house, the biggest thing, you guys, you need to, whatever scripts you use, whether it's Mike Fury, Brian Buffini, Eisenhower, there's a ton of scripts out there. Cater it to yourself, right? We've done this. We use bold scripts. I've taken bold. I've taken stuff from Buffini. I've taken stuff from Eisenhower. I've taken stuff from all these coaches, and I've made it myself. I know when I go to the listing, I did coaching for 2.5 years, and with a different company, Tim and Julie Harris. I did coaching with them, and I take some of their stuff too. So you just take from all these coaches that have done it hundreds of times, and you make it your own. So when I go to my listings personally, I go and kind of similar to bold. I walked up to the door, and I listen. Before I go to the listings, I listen to kind of see, to try to see if I can feel what kind of personalities they are. If you don't know your DISC profile, DISC, you need to find that out, because you need to learn how to mirror and match and be able to talk to your sellers at the pace that they're talking with. And you need to know where you're going to give them a lot of details or not a lot of details, right? I went on a listing last week. A lady was 80-something years old, and she talked like this. Hey, Thomas, when are you coming over? So if I talk to her like this, it's like, hey, Carolyn, I'm going to be coming over and blah, blah, blah. If I talk to her like that, I'm going to totally disconnect with her. She's not going to feel a genuine, connection. And I'm telling you guys right now, in today's market and with what we have, you need to connect with your people in the first like 10 seconds. You talk about first impressions. You need to do everything you can, whether it's on Zoom or in person, to make sure you connect with these people in the first like 10 to 15 seconds. So if you're talking super fast and they're talking super slow, they're not going to know what they're not going to understand why, but they're not going to feel a connection, right? And then you're going to be playing catch up. So know the speed of how you talk, and know how to talk to people. Know your DISC profile, DISC, and how those personalities go into there. And I can talk about one of our listings recently. We just did strictly over Zoom, never met the people. The first thing I did was like, hey guys, I do what's called a FORM or FORD method: family, occupation, recreation, and message. And I don't even talk shop with them until, I've said this before, I don't talk shop until I see the guy or the woman like unfold their arms and start talking, right? Because if you go to a listing and the husband's like this, leaning back, you tell me how receptive he is to listening to something. And he's not, is he really? He's not, right? So I don't start talking shop until I start seeing him, leaning forward, opening up their hands. Once they start opening up their hands, you can start seeing them like, hey, they're receptive to start hearing. And then I start talking shop, right? Because you're face to face. This was over a Zoom call, and the wife was very receptive, very talkative, but the husband was like this the whole time. So I didn't start talking anything until I saw the husband kind of relax, open his hands, and start engaging. And we got the listing, 6%. We just listed it a day or two ago. And that was just strictly over Zoom, right? A few weeks ago, we had a lead that came in, and it was a competitive listing. And normally at the end of a listing, when I say, hey guys, you know, do you feel like I can sell your house? You know, do you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your house? You know, and they normally say yes. Those are for people who are almost like drivers or who are confident. The people that I went with, they were very like very standoff, very, you know, safe and security. We need to talk a little bit more, this, and this. And something inside me, I said, oh, I just want to ask him, hey, let's take the listing, sign here, press hard, right? And I didn't. I backed off and I said, you know what, guys? I mean, I said, talk about it and we'll come and we'll come back. I went out to the car. I set out for like, you know, maybe 10 minutes talking. They came out to the car and said, you know what? You know, we love your assertiveness. Assertiveness? Like I wasn't assertive. You know, I just knew it. I knew their personality and I knew if I pushed, that would have turned them off. So I stepped back and I said, hey, you know what? You know, I didn't ask them to sign the contract. They came out to the car and then they signed the contract. I went back in and we signed the contract, right? So you need to learn how to read your clients, right? And you can't start doing this stuff until you know your scripts. So you need to learn you need to understand personality types. And most important, you need to know your scripts. Really, what are scripts? They're just really the questions that, you know, that you go throughout. And what I do is FORM, family, occupation, recreation, message. So I ask them, hey, how long have you been in the area? You know, and then, you know, talk to them about their family. I find a connection. How many kids do you have? Right? Oh, what are you guys doing right now for school? Right? How long have your family been in this area? Where'd you move from? Occupation. Oh, like, hey, how long have you know, do you work in the area or do you travel? And how do you like your job? How long have you been there? Oh, 15 years. Wow, you love it, right? I mean, you've been there for 15 years. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a job, it pays, you know. So you just start talking to them just like you were any of your other friends. This is how I start off every listing, whether it's on Zoom or in person. You know, recreation, like, hey, with your kids, you know, do you guys do anything? Or, you know, what do your kids do? What do they love doing? They like racing cars? Do they like ballet, dance, like whatever? Find some kind of connection there. And then M, message, or for me, and then after I get that report, then I start going into talking to them about their house. All right. So I get that rapport, the husband or wife or the decision makers start opening up, and then they're receptive to hearing. That's when I start my presentation and just start talking the information. And what it looks like from there is just really asking them again about their why. So when I start doing the message, the M in the form, I asked them, like, so tell me again, where are you guys wanting to go? Why are you guys wanting to be there? Why is it important? You know, what's the time frame that you need to be there? So I asked all these questions, even though I already know the answer, because I asked them before I came there. I asked them all this so they know, they revisit everything, they have the emotions there, and I can guide them to closing. And then so I had them revisit that stuff, and then I have them, and then I just go forward in the listing from there. I started talking to them about their house. I go on RPR, which I did an RPR class not too long ago. Watch the video, guys. Look at it, print out a report, simple report, like 3 pages, sometimes 4. You know, it'll show like, hey, this is exactly what the houses are selling for in your market. You know, very, very easy CMA, you know, market analysis. Very straightforward, something simple where they can just look at it and read it, and they understand it very well. And then I just really, you know, and really from there, I do my best through it to hit all the major pain points. So by the time it gets to the end, there's no questions. They just sign the contract, right? Like you hit all these points, like, hey, they might ask about commission and stuff like that in the beginning or towards the end. I just tell them, I said, yeah, no, we're just a standard 6% commission. And, you know, in the market right now, even though it's crazy, and yeah, you can't put your house on the market and you'll get 15 offers. I was like, our job and what we do is to not just represent you to get the most money, but at the end of the day, to have this a smooth transaction and make sure you get it from open to close. Because I can tell you right now, I had one house that we had 15 offers on, right? And I had to, you know, legitimately go through every offer, and I presented it to them. And I did a step further. I called, you know, the top handful. I call the lenders, and I talk if the lenders don't give me some info on their client. I call the lenders and I say, hey, hey man, what's going on? This is Thomas. I just wanted to give you a call. We had an offer. We're really looking at, your client on this house. Like, hey, can you give me the scoop? What's going on with them? Like, do you have their DU? DU is a desktop underwriting. Like when you first get approved, if the lender, is good, they do a DU approval in the beginning saying, hey, we have all the stuff. A DU approval, pretty much good as gold, pretty close, right? Hey, do you have your DU approval already? Cool. Have you checked funds and stuff? Let me know about the client. What kind of jobs do they have? Right. And I did that. And the offer that we were going to accept from a seasoned agent of like 15 years, this seasoned agent wrote a conventional offer. That's why we're going with it. This agent, I talked to the lender like, oh no, that the buyer has horrible credit. We have to go FHA. There, I'm telling you right now, it's not conventional. And I said, what? I was like, this agent is this agent's been in the business twice as long as I have. Really good. They sell a lot of properties and they messed up. Right. So if we would have went down, it would have been a crap show, So we ended up not taking that offer. We ended up taking a different offer that was conventional. Right. So you use my story, guys. If you're a listing, use my story. Take that story and say, hey, this is what makes us professional, because we take the extra step. That's why you pay us, and then you pay us because we're going to make your life easy. We're going to give you the most money, and it's going to be a smooth transaction, and we're going to go above and beyond than anyone else, right? If you got FSBOs or you have somebody wanting to shortcut, shortcut your commission. I tell this story too. This happened to me. Use this story, guys. If you don't have a story, use it. Use this one. I had a listing one time that we took that the seller bought it from a for sale by owner, right? Seller, I was listing the property. My seller bought it from a for sale by owner, right? And she bought it from a for sale by owner. And what ended up happening when I went to sell it, we got into contract, and lo and behold, the old owners were still on title, and they went through a title company, right? So sellers can think like, hey, just because I go through a title company, it's going to be perfect and it's going to be smooth sailing, and I can just go through them and screw the real estate agent. I don't have to pay that, and I can just have the title company do all the paperwork. You let your seller know, yeah, that's great, but can I tell you why that worries me? You tell them this story. Old owners were on title. When we went to sell it, we got it in contract. The old owner said, oh yeah, we'll get off the title for 20 grand. For 20 grand, we'll release the title. Yeah, guess how that went? They were in court for another 2 years. Right? You use that story, guys. These are your objection handlers right here. Right? You use these stories and you use them as your objection handlers. Can I tell you, Jason, why that worries me if you want to list your house by yourself? And you go this. Because most people think, even seasoned people, investors are like, oh, I just go through a title company. You tell them that story, they're like, oh man. Right? So these are your objection handlers. Those things are your objection handlers when you go on listings. Price is another objection. So after I do the FOR, we talk about this stuff and we just have a general conversation. Like I said, we just exactly how we're doing right now. And, a price is a big one right now. And we let them know, we said, hey guys, this is where, look at this thing I printed out on RPR. This is where all the houses are selling. We could list it a little bit above, and right now you need to have an education, guys. Know how many days we're on the market. Tulare, we're about 14. Kings County, we're about 6. That means within 6 days or 14 days on the market, all the houses will be consumed on average, right? So you can let your sellers know, like, okay, Mr. and Mr. Seller, you want to list like 20 grand above where we recommend. I'm just telling you right here, this is what I recommend is our pricing. We can try there, but I just want to let you know that's reaching for the skies even in this market. And we're on an average of, in Kings County, 6 days, and Tulare, 14 days. Excuse me. And if it doesn't sell within a week or so, give or take, then we got to reevaluate, right? We got to reevaluate. The last thing we want to do right now is to put your house on the market and for it to sell, because the way the market is right now, guys, and you know it, I tell the sellers this too. about his house. In this market, what's the matter with the house? And that's the last thing you want right now, especially in this market, is for it to sit and those questions in somebody's head, because they're going to go back and start beating up price, right? So you rather price it right on where it should be priced, and then it'll get bumped up, guys. I'm telling you right now. Like, I mean, I did that, and I told my seller that this one really beautiful house in Lemoore, she wanted to list it at like 285, and I'm like, no, 275 is the way to do it. And she listened to me, so we listed at 275. We accepted an offer. Get this, we accepted an offer at 283, so 7,000 over asking, and the buyer paid $20,000 to pay off my seller's solar. You guys hear that? 7,000 over asking price and paid $20,000 to pay off my seller's solar bill. Like, isn't that insane? We got her 7,000 over and $20,000 paid off. So if you price it right, we had 9 offers on that property, and that you know, obviously we went with that one because, you know, they're paying, they paid over and they paid my seller's solar off. So price it right. And these are that's the other objection handler. That's how you talk to your clients. Why does that, you know, Mike, this is why, you know, can I tell you why this worries me, right? And you tell them this stuff, and then you engage with them, because we're all human beings, guys. Like, yeah, we want to make the most money, but at the end of the day, like, we engage with stories, right? So all you got to do is know a bunch of people's stories. If they're not yours, it doesn't matter. Like, hey, a good friend of mine, like, our team, this just happened, or this just happened. And when you tell the people this stuff, they're like, oh wow, I don't want that to happen to me. That's the way that you just get over that. Okay, great. All right, you guys ready? Let's go and start this paperwork. So very fluid. I have a conversation. This is just how I do it, right? This is Thomas Curtis's strategy, because I over the past 6-7 years, I found out who I am as a person. I'm not, you know, and other people are successful in other ways. This is just how I do it. I go and I engage with the people. I connect with them. I get them I do my best to get their trust in the first 10 to 15 seconds, find some kind of commonality, and I sit with them and I get their trust so they can say, hey, I can refer this guy. I trust this guy with my kids. I trust this guy. I know no matter what, like, this guy is going to do good. For me, I have a team. I don't double-end any deals. I haven't double-ended deals in a couple years, right? That's just something I choose. I've double-ended tons of deals in the past on listings. So another thing that I tell, if you guys don't do this, don't use this. But this is what I do. I have a team, and my phone number doesn't go on my signs. My team members go on the signs. I tell my listings, I said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm yours 100%. Like, I will not represent the buyer coming in. I am yours 100%, and I'm your consultant. I'm your legal fiduciary, and I will be 100% yours. I'm not gonna go and represent the buyer coming in. I have I do have a team, and we do have a huge amount of the market share. We have nearly 40% of the market share here in Tulare and Kings County, and so it might be another Keller Williams agent, but I won't be doing it. Right, and that's just something that I've chosen. I've been very blessed. I don't have to, and just something that I've seen that sellers appreciate, right? And they appreciate that. If you're at that level, awesome. It's not saying that's good or bad. It's just something that I choose, right? So don't, you know, this is just something that I choose, because what I've seen when I represent on both sides, there's gray area there, and even though I know I'm ethical and I'm moral, it's still tough. And I can guarantee you 100%. Sellers in the back of their head, they think about it. They're like, oh, well, Thomas, how can you be 100% mine legal fiduciary and be 100% my buyer's legal fiduciary? I can tell you that goes in the back of the seller's mind. So I've cut that out. I don't represent both sides if I'm doing the listing. If if I buy one of my own, investment properties or stuff, I do, but I'm representing myself, or my team's representing me. So I do that on investment properties, but if I'm listing, I won't. Right, so that's just something that I do, that I tell them out there. And if you don't, like I said, if you don't do that, there's nothing wrong if you do it. It's just what I found personally for me, right? So that's just something that I do. But really, those, so as I go through, I pre-do the, so going back to the beginning, call when you get the list, when you get the lead, you call the people, you get and you ask them, you ask them the questions, the pre-listing questions, motivation, price, if they're working with other agents. You go to the house, you connect well in the first, 10 to 15 seconds. If you're doing it over Zoom, you do the same thing, right? You still do the form method. You still ask them about their family. That's even more important. You better have good lighting. You better have, you better be prepared, especially if you're doing it over Zoom, because if you look bad on Zoom and you're doing a Zoom listing, you're not prepared, or you don't know what you're doing, it's going to look real bad over video. Right? People will give grace to you in person, but in video it's a little bit, you can disconnect because they can just hang up on you. If you're in their house, they have to kick you out. You know what I mean? So if you're on Zoom, you got to be a little bit more prepared. But if you're going in person, you can connect with them a little bit better. And then do the form: family, occupation, recreation, and message. I ask all the same questions. If you hear me talking to anyone, or if you hear me talking to a client, I ask a lot of the same questions, because it's just having a natural conversation. That's how you get people to trust you, right? And it's not manipulation, guys. I do believe that I'm the best listing agent for my clients. All right. I love all the, I love Sean, I love all these people, but when I go into something, I believe I'm the best for them, right? If they say, hey, I'm interviewing Sean Cardoza too, I don't ever talk bad, except about Sean. But I don't ever talk bad. You always talk great. Like, man, whoever you choose is going to be great. Like, Sean's a great, he's one of my best friends. Great team. Whoever you choose, it's going to be stellar. You're going to be represented well, right? At the end of the day, guys, we have a small community of agents and people who we deal with. And if you screw people over, you're going to get a horrible reputation. No one's going to want to work with you, right? No one's going to want to accept your offers if you write them. So please don't ever talk bad. Don't ever degrade somebody else. Don't ever do any of that kind of stuff. We are better than that. Our brokerage, our team, here, our leadership team, all of us here at KW, we are better than that. We're above any of that stuff. So don't ever do stuff like that. So that's how I flow. Pre-listing, get to know them by doing a form, talking about, you knock out a lot of the questions before that. So by the end of it, when we talk about the house, you're really just talking about price and possibly commission. And I gave you a story about commission on what we do, and the value that we bring. And then if they do have any objections with commission, really, I mean, it's if you do your job well, they're just going to ask you, and you say 6%. Any other questions? And they're like, no, okay, all right, great. Well, let's go ahead and start the paperwork. If you do a good job setting up, they're going to know you're professional, and they're going to know that you're going to make their lives a lot easier. And especially in this market, like, I let them know too, like, hey, with this, we have our legal team, that if anything does happen, because that's happened to us before too, like, hey, your commission, that pays us goes to our legal team. Part of that goes to paying our legal team. So if something happens after the close of escrow, you have our backing, right? And we can, we have some great attorneys. I had a property that I sold in Lemoore that they had an above ground pool, right? They had an above ground pool, and the people that were moving in took, a few weeks to move in, and somehow the above ground pool collapsed, which created a sinkhole in their yard and the neighbor's backyard, and it was a big old fiasco. So we were getting calls for litigation, suing my sellers because they knew blah, 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 there was a leak or something. None of us knew. We had a pool, and they had a pool inspection too, and nothing came up, right? We did everything right, but my sellers were happy because when I talked to them, I said, hey, yeah, we have our attorneys, and we called them, we're on it. We talked to our brokers. So when you talk to people in the listings, yeah, part of that goes to paying all of our legal fees in case something down the lines comes up, we got you covered. We'll help you, right? So once you start hearing that stuff, like, they're like, oh, okay, all right, cool. I'm not just paying you, 30 grand to go and, to list my property, and I don't talk to you again. Something else that's important is I call my clients every Friday. My listings, and updated them on Friday about where the market's at. and where we are in the transaction. So that's always important because they always want communication. Communication is key with listings. The biggest thing with listings, people complain that, my agent didn't communicate to me enough, or I didn't hear from them. If you prep them, and like I told you with buyers, you frame them like your kids. We're going into the store. Don't touch this. Don't ask for this. Like you frame your kids. You frame your sellers. Hey, we're going to have showings. I'm going to update you 2 times a week for sure on Friday, and I'll give you all the updates, and I'll let you know for sure when, where we are in the transaction, right? I've even got to the point where I pre-record it and I send it to them via BombBomb, and they love it. They're like, wow, we love this stuff, right? And I pull a little analysis of what is selling in the market, if their house hasn't sold. So just giving them the information, and just telling them when you're going to communicate and actually doing it when you say you're going to do it, is really, really big for the sellers. So that's what I do personally, guys. That's what I do personally to get the listings. A few of them that I've gone on. We've probably 18 in the last couple months, properties we sold, or just listing wise. And so it's just very fluid. We're in a relationship business, and we're in a referral business, and you always want to, always want to put that forward. I let in my listing appointments, I let them know, like, hey, if you're ever not satisfied with what I'm doing, or you don't feel like I'm representing you well, give me 72 hours, and we can, let me know and inform us. Give us 72 hours, and we'll cancel the listing. I've never had anyone do that because I haven't performed. I've never had anyone do that. Life happens, and that sometimes they have to cancel. But giving them that out, knowing that other agents say, nope, you're stuck to 6 months with me, and we're not going to let you out. You're legally bound. Like we've had agents do that before too. And that, you tell me how their reputation was after that with the seller. I had the agent calling me like, I hate my listing agent. They won't let me out of my contract. I want to list with you, but they won't let me out. Right? Like, do you think they'll ever recommend them or ever use them again? No. Right? It's a relationship business, guys. So be relational, be trustworthy. And that's just what I do. What questions do you guys have? I know there's 16 of you guys on here. I want to know what questions you guys have. If there's anything specific that you guys have, or something I didn't explain well in kind of the process of once you have the listing, or once you have the appointment, how you kind of conduct yourself through that appointment. Go ahead. Not all at once.
I have a question. So I'm curious about the CMA. I know how to do a CMA, but so much of it is subjective as to what the house is actually going to sell for. So do you have any tips about how I get more comfortable with my opinion?
Yeah, great question, Lori. So when I use RPR, funny story, when I went on a listing when I first was on Kevin's team, and I thought I knew how to do CMAs, and I thought I was pretty good at listings, right? And it was like a semi-custom home. At that point, it was like 300. I told him 330, right? It was a semi-custom home, and I knew how to comp track homes, but I didn't know how to, like, semi-custom homes are different, right? So what you want to do is know to the T. Like when I do flips and stuff, I almost know, like, by $1,000 or $2,000 what they're coming in, because you need to know exactly what appraisers look for, right? So Lori, do you know exactly what appraisers are looking for on?
I've looked at a couple of different appraiser reports, but I don't know that I would say I know exactly what they're looking for.
So we can do a training on that later, but knowing exactly what appraisers are looking for, or really close to exactly, and how their mindsets are, when you're comping out a property, that appraisers don't like to go on main roads or over railroad tracks. That they like to stay in with about 10 years of the age of a property, give or take, if they can. I used to go out a mile and then try to work my way backwards. Now I do like a quarter mile, and then I work my way out. That appraisers right now in Kings County, I know that appraisal, like, is normally on a standard track home, it's normally $35 to $40 a square foot that an appraiser will do an adjustment on. If you have a house that is 2,000 square feet and a house that is 2,200 square feet, Normally they use 35 to $40 a square foot. Now they're really doing like $40 a square foot. So that house that was 2,000 is that 2,200 square foot house is going to be $8,000 more than that house that's 2,000 square feet. So they take that 40 times 200 is 8,000. So once you start learning these numbers and what appraisers exactly look for, you know that appraisers can give, you know, give or take 1,500 bucks for a patio. You know that appraisers give 10 to 15 grand for solar. You know that appraisers for a pool, they give like, you know, depending on how nice the house is, 8 to 15 grand. You know, on a super custom house, the most I've seen for a pool is 25,000, but the seller spent $92,000 on their backyard, right? And then they got a $25,000 credit on their pool, right? So you when you start knowing all of this stuff, it's knowledge is power, and you know what the appraisers are exactly looking for. And then that way, when you give it to your client, you can say, hey, I know that it's going to be right in this ballpark. We can list a little bit above, but look, this is a number where more than likely it's going to list or sell for, an appraiser is going to sell for. And we can always list above, but knowing like this is roughly the number. And in the market we're at right now, it's hit or miss. Like I've had some appraisers, and I told, like I had one that we listed not to like a month ago. When it sold, I said, hey, you know what? I know 100% for sure you're going to get 260, right? So I mean, you might get closer to 270, but for sure you'll get 260. And we ended up getting it in the contract at 270 and it appraised at 268, right? And so they were super happy. When when you under promise and over deliver, Lori, you makes your clients happy, right? Under promise and over deliver. What does that mean? I said, hey, for sure you'll get 260. We'll see if we can get more. They got 268. They're ecstatic. They got extra $8,000. Versus me telling them, hey, you can get 280 for it, and then you get 268. Like they're going to be like, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. So we can do a class on like exactly what appraisers are looking for, but once you dial that stuff in, yeah, you'll really get to see. You'll look at stuff and you'll be able to say, okay, here's this property compared to mine. Okay, you know, a kitchen, you know, a bathroom. An extra bathroom will maybe give 2,500 bucks. A third car garage will give about $5,000 worth of value. Once you start knowing all this stuff, you can really go and say, hey, this is what I know your house is going to sell for this, and depending on what appraiser we get, it could go higher. Does that answer your question a little bit, Lori?
It does. It seems like the values vary based off of neighborhood or based off of appraiser, and so it still leaves me, you know, a little bit uncertain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do try to look at those things.
Yeah. Just, yeah. What I've seen and what I do is like, I just give, I know like what an appraiser is looking for. So I get that number and then you just, you know, you leave some room for grace there, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, the market is going to be where the market is. Who knows? List it for 10 grand more, see what happens, you know, but you just set their expectation, right? You give them their dream. And then you just set the expectation to know that if it doesn't happen, like you're still okay. You know, you're still going to make this amount of money. And so that's what I would say, Lori. If you're going in your listings, go confident with a number. And then if they, you know, if they want to go up or a little bit, like be okay with it. But as long as they know, like, hey, this is reality, and more than likely they'll be fine with it if it appraises a little bit lower. And that happens a lot right now. I know you guys are probably seeing it. I've seen it. On a lot of our properties. And I've seen the opposite too, on a handful of them that appraise for more, like, wow, that appraised for a lot more than I thought it was going to. They're, you know, the appraiser is really nice. Go out there and talk to the appraiser. You know, it's still, you know, like I said, relationship business. So I try to go out there when I can on houses that I'm like, this might appraise or not. I try to go out there and talk to the appraiser and, you know, bring them a water if it's hot, or just hang out with them or create a good relationship, because we all know that appraisals, they're subjective, right?
Yeah.
An appraiser can, if he likes you, they'll push the numbers. They'll push the numbers if they like you. If they don't like you and they think you're a jerk, they're gonna push numbers down, right? Appraisals are still subjective. Appraisers have a range of how numbers they can play, you know, and if they're willing to push stuff for people they like. So I would say relationship business, go out there if you are concerned about a property, and it works sometimes and it doesn't work sometimes. Don't go out there and tell the appraiser, I know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing. Like, you should do it at this number, that's going to get you nowhere soon. All right. That's going to make you more upset because your appraisal won't come in at value,
Yeah.
you know? So go in confident with a number, give some room for grace, set the expectation, and just see what the market demands. You know, people are paying 5-10 grand plus over appraised value cash, right? Because if the house is nice enough, they're doing that. Have you seen that, Lori?
Yeah, I have.
You know, so that, yeah, it'll appraise, and people highly likely paying cash over appraised value if the seller is not accepting a cash deal already.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it would be great to have another class on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I literally got my teeth kicked in by Kevin Blaine, and he actually had like after that listing where I thought it was at 330, and another agent came in, oh, you can sell it for 360, you know, and Kevin ended up listing it, and and guess what they ended up selling it for? 330, just like I said. So I wasn't that wrong, right? But Kevin came in and did a whole class on everything kind of I'm talking about, like. You need to get into appraiser's mind so you know. And Kevin and Yalis are probably two other than Kevin, Yalis is one of the best people that I've seen that can comp properties, right? So maybe me and Yalis can do a class together of like, hey, this is how you appraise properties or where you can get values, because that'll help you if you're looking at flipping a property or buying a property for an investment too, right? To know what you can sell it for and what you should do and what you shouldn't do, right? Because I tell my sellers that too. Hey, this is what you should do, and this is the kind of value you'll bring back, and this is what you shouldn't do, right? Because you won't get your value back, or this will make it sell quicker if you do this, you know? So things like that, just bringing, value to your sellers.
That would be great information as well.
Yeah, cool, Lori. We'll put that on the books.
Okay, tomorrow? I'm joking.
Maybe next week, so we can have we've got a good couple weeks of training, so we'll keep it going with one of those classes.
Exactly.
Awesome question, Lori. Thank you so much. Is any other questions out there, guys? Sean Cardoza, do you have any input or any question or anything to add on here? You're a listing machine. What would you say, sir?
I got to look for my mute button so I can unmute myself. No, I mean, Thomas, you nailed it. I mean, really, this is all about just actually getting out there, creating relationships. But I mean, every one of these listing appointments is a totally different type of situation in real estate versus dealing with buyers. You know, when you're dealing with buyers, you're more dealing with, people that want to go see a house. And here it's a trust thing. You know, how do you create that trust, create that relationship with them so they know that you are the right and perfect pick for the job. And remember, when you're doing this, you're really applying for a job. So that's something huge that I do is if I think I'm needing to really compete with somebody, I say, well, I'd love to apply for this job. I really, even though I know that it's different, that I'm confident with what I'm doing, that kind of puts an ease on them so that they feel like they're, okay, I'm in charge. They feel like they're in charge here, and they like that. And so one is, that's an important item. You know, you want to make them feel like they're in charge. But really, I mean, you nailed everything else, Thomas. It was great training.
I appreciate it, man. And if you guys are like newer or getting going again, like when I first started, one of my trainers told me, they said, hey, you should focus on buyers and be an expert at buyers and then transition into listings and sellers. And I said, screw that. I want to list houses, right? And looking back at it, now what I did, I focused on buyers and I transitioned into sellers. But what ended up happening is you become an expert at one, because you guys got to realize, like when you go on a listing appointment, like when you're a buyer, you're opening at a house and you're selling a house and you're like, hey, great house. You guys want to write an offer? Cool. Awesome. Let's write an offer. That's very different than sitting face to face or via Zoom with somebody and saying, hey, this is why you should pay me $30,000 to sell your house. Those are two totally separate conversations. So whatever you do, if you're new and if you want to do buyers, run at it. If you're new and you want to do sellers, run at it. I would say obviously kind of do both if you need to, but focus on one, and be fierce at it and be an expert at one, and then transition. I learned early in my career that I was prideful because I was a jack of all trades and an expert in none. And in life, just like in business, you'll learn that things like that, you'll be spinning your wheels for a long time. Be an expert in a small group of things and then expand. Don't try to be a jack of all trades. And that's what I've learned and through 6 or 7 years of trying to, be a jack of all trades, guys. Be an expert in what you do, then transition. So that's all I got for you guys today. I mean, if there's no questions, I think we'll wrap it up and we'll put on the books maybe an appraisal class in a couple weeks on how to value a property, and maybe we'll do a mastermind on that and see maybe me, Sean, and Yalis will be doing something like that. Sound good, Sean? Cool. All right, guys. I love you guys. Have a great and amazing day. Like Troy says, go fight and sell. Have a good day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.